Pleased to be here today on the traditional territory of Treaty 6. We acknowledge all those who share a deep connection with this land. The City of Beaumont respects the histories, languages, and cultures of its First Peoples, whether they be of First Nation, Métis, or Inuit descent, and appreciates that their presence continues to enrich Canada's vibrant communities. As we gather here in the traditional Treaty 6 territory, we acknowledge that we are all treaty people and have ongoing responsibilities to protect and honor all of life. I also have 3 proclamations to make this evening. Number 1, Métis Week, November 14th to the 18th, 2022. Whereas Métis Week is an opportunity to commemorate the legacy of Louis Riel and recognize the sacrifices of all Métis people who continue to strive towards rights and recognition as a distinct nation. And whereas the City of Beaumont recognizes the important role that Métis people have played in the community and the contributions they continue to make to the city. And whereas Beaumont's vision to be a vibrant, inclusive, diverse, livable, and sustainable community requires the community to commit to a strong relationship with Métis people and communities across the province. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deputy Mayor Kathy Barnhart, do hereby proclaim November 14th through the 18th, 2022 as Métis Week in the City of Beaumont, Alberta, dated this 8th day of November, 2022. In will display the Métis Nation of Alberta flag outside our City Hall. People who fell in service. Whereas by ratifying the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child in 1991, Canada made a commitment to ensure that all children are treated with dignity and respect. And whereas this commitment includes the opportunity for children to have a voice, be protected from harm, and be provided with their basic needs and every opportunity to reach their full potential. And whereas the City of Beaumont and Family and Community Support Services celebrate our children and recognize the importance of our children in the community, now therefore be it resolved that I, Deputy Mayor Kathy Barnhart, do hereby proclaim November 20th, 22 as National Child Day in the City of Beaumont, Alberta, dated this 8th day of November, 2022. And the third proclamation for tonight, Women's Entrepreneurship Day, which is November the 19th, 2022. Whereas the City of Beaumont recognizes the important role that women have as leaders in business and industry who contribute to our economy, our work, role of women in our society, whose contributions are vital in creating a vibrant workforce and community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Deputy Mayor Kathy to the next item on our agenda, that is the adoption of the agenda. Administration, are there any changes to the agenda? It keeps going on and off. Sorry about that.
Attachment to item 6A, the 2023 proposed municipal operating utility and operating and capital budget. The PowerPoint presentation has been distributed to council and has been updated on the public agenda on the website.
Councillor Tessier.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move that the November 8th, 2022 council agenda be adopted with the addition of attachment 2, 6A 2023 proposed municipal operating, utility operating, and capital budget.
Thank you, Councillor Tessier. Are there any questions or comments, members of council? If not, can I ask you to vote on that, please? So do I have to hit stop? And then consent. Those are 5A, Organizational Council Meeting, October 25th, 2022. The minute request. Those are the items that are on the consent agenda. Going to make a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Debate 5A, 6C, and 9A.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Are there any questions or comments from other members of council? Not seeing any. Please vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor, if I may, I do want to apologize. I am having bandwidth problem here this evening, so it is taking a little bit of a delay to try and display the motions, but if you guys could just bear with me this evening.
Okay. I'm not alone in the problems with the technology. That makes me feel better. Okay, so we are up to item number 4 on the agenda, and that is open forum. And I understand, Ms. Winter, you're going to introduce the speaker for that.
We do have one open forum presentation. Mr. Jim Boudreau is here to speak with council.
Welcome, Mr. Boudreau. Is your mic needs to be.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
This one.
Here this evening. I come to council tonight to present some thoughts and possible solutions to what I and others see as problems with the community standards bylaw regarding construction debris. Construction waste. For example, when we look at number 40, each construction site shall have a waste container to ensure that the waste construction materials are placed in the container to prevent the material from being blown away from the construction site. In that one, as is the case with 41, there's no individual or there's no entity that's named to who is responsible for that. In fact, it leaves it out there, and as a result, I think it's going to be very problematic for the citizens and for the staff. My understanding as is the case it does not, and the problem continues. That is what has happened in the past, and citizens' complaints were made many times by myself and many others in Donsero, and some people just gave up. Citizens want to see a proactive approach with this runaway garbage, which degrades our neighborhoods, our life-filled ponds, and our green spaces. In Donsero, we are very proud of each of these assets and do our part to protect and keep beautiful our environment. We are simply asking council to amend the bylaw, which will work with us and not against us. We do not want to become the gatekeepers of a system which clearly does not work. And this is not an opinion. This is a well-proven fact. And the residents over there are, for the most part, in agreement. We are asking for an ounce of prevention front load versus the pound with unique experiences and valuable insights. As a secured over them to ensure a simple amendment to clearly define our collective expectations as representatives, citizens, upon one of garbage from our communal areas. Also, it will save the city of Beaumont money by lessening costly enforcement and justice measures, and by making it easier for our employees to do their jobs in a more rewarding and meaningful way. Monitoring compliance is much easier and less confrontational. A compliance-based system is far superior and more effective than a complaint-based system. This seems to me and my fellow residents a win-win for all involved. So can I continue? I've got about
Almost done?
Yes.
Just a few more sentences, that would be fine.
This would clear up the ambiguity and lack of clarity that presently exists within the a vibrant, modern, and progressive city in which we all feel a sense of pride and ownership. I trust council will take my comments in the spirit they were presented, and I certainly thank you for the extra minutes.
You're very welcome, and thank you very much. It takes a lot of time and a lot of courage to come forward to council, and given your experience and background, I really do appreciate that you took that time.
Thank you very much.
To do that. I'm wondering if you have that in writing, whether it's appropriate, Ms. Winter, if we can get copies of the submission, or is that something that Mr. Boudreau has to send in a different format? I would like to see.
I would be happy to send it in.
Would
I
that be
just,
possible, Ms. Winter?
along with some
She
pictures.
wants me to give her the right to speak.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If Mr. Boudreau would like to send it to the legislative email that I believe he's been in contact with, we can distribute that to council.
Okay. So just need to send it in to the same person you contacted to be
Stacy.
present. Yes.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And that way we all have the words you've spoken, because I hear you, but I don't
I
necessarily
understand.
register it until I actually see it.
So
Okay.
Steve's.
There you
That's
go.
okay.
You're on it. It's really being very weird the way this is going. So try it again.
Okay,
Okay,
no
you
worries.
go first.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Boudreau, for
Hit it,
coming
hit
in.
the button, it goes away. So you go first, Councillor Miller.
Yeah, it's fine. As long as you can hear me, that's all that matters. Thank you for coming in and sitting in front of council. I know it's not easy and you took a lot of preparation to do so. We've also time elsewhere. I guess my question would be direct. Just
waste are coordinated also with the land use file. Bring forward a report with options on all possible amendments.
Okay.
Council did direct an automatic review date of 2 years after the bylaw was basically directing the report.
Okay.
And I know that Ms. Winter and her team would be more than happy to assist any member of council that was willing to do that.
Thank you, Ms. Bugeja.
Yep.
Anything further?
No, I think that explains it pretty good. So for me, that, means I'm not gonna obviously go ahead and direct anyone to present options right here, right now. But I think it's something that is very much an important issue.
Who are picking up garbage and issuing complaints. In councils, and again,
There's another question.
oh,
So don't
okay,
leave
sorry.
yet. You're not off the hook yet. Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Van Nuker.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Goudreau, for coming in and putting the presentation together. In addition to Councillor Miller's questions, was there an area of Beaumont that is of more concern than another, that you've seen these types of issues? I'm sure if you look
that's an insulation and plastics and cardboard, you know, that's clearly blowing from going out during the winter, dragging stuff off, because I don't want to see it, you know, one that had a netting on it, netting that could be applied.
Mhm.
It was more like a truck, back of a truck that was.
Yeah.
Wind blows, and when wind blows, things blow around.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, no, thank you. I was just wondering, like, you know, where are you seeing that? I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have had others in front of us that were bringing concerns from directly from other parts
Sure.
of the community, right? So, yeah, thank you very much for.
I think this.
Councillor Newkirk, for your good questions and comments. And
Yes, that's correct.
go right ahead.
The council report itself is very high level with the majority of the detailed content. I'm not going to go through the count. To summarize the content in the proposed budget. Before we go into the slides, I'd just like to emphasize a few points made in the budget document itself, specifically on page 7, which is the budget in brief section. For brevity, I'm just going to paraphrase the first few paragraphs, but want to ensure that the important pieces are known to council and the public. So the city has had significant growth over the last 10 years. 10 years ago, the population was just under 14,000, and the most recent census shows a population of 21,000, which is an increase of 50%. This population growth as well as a responsibility for developing, servicing, and using the newly annexed lands in an efficient manner. This proposed budget attempts to balance pressures from population and physical growth, prepare for future growth, and at the same time maintain and sustain current municipal the rate of inflation utilities, equipment, recommendation provides, which are including but not limited to recreation, protective services like fire and policing, as well as road maintenance. The utility operating budget, which funds utility supported services of the city, such as water, wastewater, curbside collection, as well as stormwater drainage. The operations, repair, maintenance, and replacement of this infrastructure are funded of renewal and replacement of the city's assets, including roads, facilities, fleet and equipment, and parks. The city also responds to needs in the community by funding growth-related projects. So with that, the next few slides focus on the municipal operating budget, specifically what is page 9. Increase in this proposed budget. So council's aware the numbers on this page and the numbers on the screen are represented based on their impact to the city's tax levy. Therefore, a number shown in brackets being a negative number would mean less taxes are required. A positive number without brackets would represent an increased tax revenue is required. So kind of the opposite of what generally people would think. Less taxes, more taxes, less taxes are good, more taxes are bad. This document, it shows, or sorry, this page in the document shows the opposite. Specifically for the top section, which is on the screen here, maintaining services. In periods of high inflation, cities, municipalities are forced to rationalize current spending. Notably, utility and network expenses have increased 23% compared to the 2022 budget. This is due to things like contract increases and the rising cost of gas and electricity. Personnel costs for staffing levels, for current staffing levels, including cost of living and employee benefits provided by third-party providers are expected to increase between 6 and 10%. Included in this increase to materials and supplies are those materials and supplies for things like snow removal, fuel for gas and diesels, which have obviously gone up substantially in the year. These items are partially offset by increases in revenue, which you can see as the upper portion of the table on the screen. However, the net number to maintain services for 2023 is budget. Beaumont has seen its tax base grow by approximately 3.5% in 2022 and is including an estimate in assessment growth revenue to account for this. That's that 810,000 number that's on the screen shown in brackets. Obviously, it reduces the requirement to levy more taxes. It has proposed uses of these new dollars to fund operating requirements, provide resources to growth-related pressures. These include resources to work collaboratively in the region, the ability to grow in physical space to allow city staff to deliver service effectively, plan for the future of the city financially. growth revenue is that -1.9%, which is utilized to offset some of the 2.8% of maintenance of services that was seen on the previous slide. The subtotal of these two categories, that maintenance of service and net growth in services, shows as a net amount for these two categories responding to growth of 0.9% to do those two. The next category, which is impact of council and other entities. Municipalities are often required to address decisions made by past councils, other levels of government, and third party. Also, for clarity, the amount listed on the screen, which is $99,000 for the library, finally, service enhancements, which is the bottom section on page 9. Administration is recommending 2 key service enhancements for the city that are crucial to deliver services to a growing city. One, service transformation initiatives is to better enable the city to deliver services to residents. Performed earlier this year. To summarize, tax increase, the top table there is the subtotals from each of these categories. One caveat here is that consumer price index or CPI isn't necessarily a perfect apples to apples metric, but it does serve as a useful comparator to gauge where the city has set its revenue requirement in relation to other goods and services ratepayers purchase as consumers. While these low tax increases in the past couple of years were justified given the circumstances of the pandemic, one impact of this is deferring the ability to effectively respond to pressures arising from growth in the city. Now compounded with rising inflationary pressures, the overall tax increase proposed reflects the need to catch up on the city's physical and population growth. The result of this on ratepayers is shown on the screen now. So the tables on the screen indicate approximately $19 per month additional for municipal services for the average ratepayer who lives in a typical home. So typical home we've used as $450,000 of assessed value. For non-residential businesses, the impact is approximately $6 a month per $100,000 of assessed value. Businesses are obviously not nearly as homogeneous as residential ratepayers. This is why we show the non-res amount expressed in units of 100,000. So depending on the size of the business and the assessed value, it would be a multiple of that number. Next, the utility budget. The proposed utility budget projects expenditures in the amount of 12 million, and this is to maintain support for current services as well as deal with growth pressures on the utility side. This results in a 7% average increase to rates. And this includes things for the ability of administration to enhance analysis and planning and ensure the future sustainability of utilities. And the increase is further driven from increased costs from wastewater commissions, contracted services, and transfers to reserves to ensure the renewal and replacement of infrastructure. I'm just going to jump back to the slide before. On the top table, we can see the ratepayer impact on utilities. This is approximately $9 a month from a utility standpoint. And this is based on, once again, an average consumption at a typical home is 213 cubic meters of water. I apologize for the size of the font on the slide there, but it is in the document. Next, capital budget. Once again, we've divided this into two sections. The renewal side, the city funds its renewal and replacement programs through its capital reserves, which are contributed by both the municipal operating or tax levy funded and utility operating budgets funded by utility rates. And this proposed budget includes renewal and replacement of approximately $4.5 million in existing city infrastructure. Notable projects include the Juno Place responds to needs in the community by funding new growth-related projects. And these are funded from these one-time sources like grants, offsite levies, and debt rather than reserves. The proposed budget includes projects such as purchase and preparation for a joint high school, renewal of Centreville Park space, dog park in Centreville, complete renewal and work upgrades to the outdoor rink at Bellevue, and continued work on land strategy for municipal facilities. With that, we now enter into the next phase of the annual budget process. This is now council's budget to deliberate, amend, and approve. Administration invites council to submit written questions on the budget between for the December 13th council meeting. To close, administration has two recommendations for this evening. One is that the presentation be received for information.
A lot of work that goes into any budget, especially the city budget, because it is so complex. So we really do appreciate that. And for those that are watching, the councillors have only just budget committee meetings on November 30th, December 1st, December 2nd. Hopefully then ready to approve it by December 13th. Introduction, I just wanted to see if any members of council have any questions or any comments.
Our service level. You have to increase our taxes to cover just service levels to maintain for
percent to maintain service. Being said, we haven't allocated all of the growth
to me, that seems like a weird thing to be growing and having X is because we're growing. Why is it that we have to do that?
It will come back to that rationale of whether growth does in fact, the growth revenue on the page does in fact pay for growth and servicing the new areas in the city. And in reality, no, it does not.
Okay, thanks. Asked in regards to like funded and not funded and position. So, you know, it's that unknown of what else are the other unfunded projects. I also found that it was a bit harder to write out specific questions. So because we don't really know what we're asking and who we're asking about. Increase our service levels to 24 hours, no ask for firefighters, which in the master plan was to hire 1 firefighter per year. And that was stated last budget cycle, especially with our HERF issues. We didn't see any snow removal level increases, no spray park design and location. So I just kind of brought my notice of motion forward for the Sani station and was told that it would be in this budget cycle for design. And yet I don't see it in the 2023 budget cycle. So I'd like to kind of adapt it or adopt a new motion to put forward instead of accepting it as information at this point. For the November 22nd meeting with updated budget that has a tax increase that reflects maintaining service levels.
Sure, shall I deal with that motion now, Ms. Winter, or hear from councillors on the existing? I don't know why this isn't working.
Thank you. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Barnhart through to Councillor Tessier. Yes, if you would like to send that over, I'll work with that. There is if there's further discussion that wants to happen.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, you'll put that on the screen eventually, but in the meantime, we'll hear from some of the other councillors. Is that okay, Councillor Tessier?
And also, Deputy Mayor Barnhart, I do want to make note that we do have a scheduled presentation starting right now at 6:45.
I'm hoping I'm getting the right mic.
Thank you. Yep, you do. Thank you very much through Deputy Mayor to the rest of council, Councillor Tessier. I just want to remind council that a lot of the discussion that we just heard from Councillor Tessier is what we do in the workshop, is where we're able to look at the specifics. You used some specifics like the RCMP and the fire and the Sani dump. What we have to do, and you're right, there is a plan that says we need to enhance those over a period of time. But under this, language that you used in your here's a first shot at it. So I'm not shutting down
This item, we're not taking a recess. We're going to move to our time specific at 6:45, if that's okay. Presentation, please. Thank you.
My name is Chantel Yardley, and I'm here on behalf of the Beaumont Society for the Arts as the president for the Beaumont Society for the Arts. And I have to see my presentation to know what to say. So here we are, Beaumont Society for the Arts. We're just here for kind of like an update, our yearly update. And so every year the Beaumont Society for the Arts gets a budget. We now split it with the Beaumont Arts Council. The BSA gets $50,000 to put on events and,
You're in control.
and so that's kind of what we do now. A lot of the, I guess, like budget deliberation now happens more in the Beaumont Arts Council side of things. And so this year, again, we were playing a little bit of catch up with, I guess, I don't know, administration and budgets and stuff. And so I feel like going into 2023, we're going to finally kind of have most of our ducks in a row as far as like splitting those two groups and figuring out who's doing what and who. And so we had a really good annual arts conference this year, actually. And quite often in the past, we focused on arts, like a need for art, because that's, and like supporting of the arts, because that's what we were kind of going for and what we needed to push. This year, we took a different approach. And I feel like a lot of that had to do with Joanna. I don't know if she would agree, but I feel like Joanna helped us, and a couple, and obviously like members of our group decided to focus it a bit more on the artists and trying to give local artists what they needed. And so we focused it on in their like physical art world, and kind of told us about their stories. And it was nice, it was intimate. I want to say there was about 25 people in attendance. It wasn't like the hugest event, but it was also like right after everything was still pretty hot kind of. And we were pretty happy with the turnout, even though that, oh, these artists actually need more direct support that we can hopefully possibly bring to them and encourage into town. So that was, I think, for me, that was one of the most successful events of the year. And the Beaumont Blues and Roots Fest, we always support a little bit with the youth at the Blues. It's like it's a great partnership. people of Beaumont deserve a better space for that, for farmers market, like just that Centreville type area. It was really bad to perform there. It was disconnected because we had the farmers market is kind of set up over here, and then where we have power is over on the other side. We can't really, we did talk with, again, Joanna was a great liaison, trying to come up with a type of stage type thing, and that isn't very helpful. You guys own a stage, but to rent that stage is like thousands of dollars for anyone to use anytime you pull out. So it's really not worth it for to continue to support it. But we would appreciate some more support in the venue area. Alberta Culture Days, we always partner with the library on that. I know the city of Beaumont also does a portion of it. The Taste of Beaumont has been what's been happening for the city of Beaumont, but we always partner kind of with the library in trying to create things. So this year they really focused on like Métis heritage and stuff. And so we were helpful in helping fund some of that. And as a partnership, the library can apply for a grant for Alberta Culture Days because we're a partner with them. And so I believe this year they got like a big fat grant as well. So that allowed for them to do more events. And they kind of do that with us. I find they'll like give us the fat grant, then the medium grant, then the little grant, and then they'll give us back to the fat grant. And so it's a nice partnership for us. Baroque Ensemble is again another event that we've brought in for years. It's the Art Walk, I guess, is maybe my second favorite. It was a really big successful event this year, something that we've talked about with the Artists Association of Beaumont for years in trying to get done. They definitely were the push for it, and we supported we could. And this year we also started a scholarship and sponsorship. It actually came from the Knights of Columbus. They had some money and they gave it to mostly to youth who are applying for to offset some that money wasn't really your money. It was more the money from the, but it's still something we're doing and something we would like to continue to do. And then the big Christmas festival is coming up. That's kind of our flagship event, and that will be happening at the church again this about that today. So request on the budget line for the arts, and that Beaumont Society for the Arts traveling art or touring artists is a good one for us because yeah, we're all volunteers and we don't have a lot of energy to produce events anymore. So it's nice to bring people in that we don't have. And then again, like I said, we are looking into some more scholarship and sponsorship and just community art support in trying to help our artists in whatever ways we can. And I think the Beaumont Arts Council will speak to other things, but I think one of the things that's on like the BSA's mind that is also on the Beaumont Arts Council is the public art piece that we're trying to figure out. And it's sort of in this nether region of who is in charge of what wall and who decides what art goes on it and does there and all of that. And then we've got artists who are eager to put art on wall. But we also have to decide if we want their art on walls. It's a complicated situation, but it's something that we're very passionate about and think that the city needs more of. It's just a matter of kind of organizing all that. So it is BS or BAC, but the BSA is also interested. And then really my only thing was kind of a needs assessment. And as I mentioned, space figuring out. And I think they're doing a great job from what I hear, and that's all going well. And I know that money is an object, but you know, as someone from Beaumont and, you know, living in this short and stuff. And so if we could have, and even for winter, I don't know what the answer is either, because, you know, the Four Seasons Park is nice and it's got that purpose that it serves, but at the same time, we need that Centreville area for those town meetings that you want to do. And I think people like it. I think people want to, and it again, it encourages people to use the businesses up there too, which I think they would. Sort of has a house on that in that area. Plus my mother-in-law owns a home on your support as
in our city, and you and your members of the Society for the Arts. As you mentioned, the process is evolving, and the grants process. It's we're growing at the same time we're trying to change the wheels on the cars that's speeding around the track. So we appreciate your patience for that. And that, and glad that that was in a previous budget. So as I've spoken, I see all the lights are lighting up here. So first up would be Councillor Monkoff Swain.
Yeah, thanks as always, and great to see you. I haven't seen you in a while. A couple of things. It's currently in there as funded, and so administration has identified that. As you're probably aware, we had that, I think, 2, maybe 3 years ago, and we had to pull that back just based on everything that was at, but it's in here now. So I just wanted to flag that for you. the one piece of advice or recommendation I'd have, and I think I brought this up last time, we've increased that over time. We're still working our way towards that. I think what would be helpful in the presentation moving forward is just some reporting back on that, right? Like I know that's not, how do I say? I think you're picking up what I'm putting down here. So I'll just let
I
it
think
go.
we can all think of the words.
Yeah. So like, I think what we've done, the previous council, we put it in that operational item, so you didn't have to come here every time and like, ask for something and you had to pre-plan. So we've got that in there.
Yeah.
We're not asking for you to come back and, us to sign off on a $12,000 act here, a $40,000 act there, but to come in on your annual piece, just come back and just give us that budget line item. This is what we spent, where and how, because we get where does that funding go? And I can point to the, hey, look at these things, but just having that budget piece would be important. So just some food for thought for next time. But that's all I had. Appreciate the update.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Monkoff-Swain. Councillor McCook.
Good to see you. Thank you for all the additional details as well. I heard a lot of great feedback on a lot of the events this summer. So that was really great. And I also got to enjoy some of the entertainment at the farmers market. So that was awesome. Councillor Monkoff-Swain touched on one of my questions, but what would be the most beneficial to the Arts Council in kind of re-energizing Centreville?
I think seating and garbages and some sort of way to create a space that isn't just it doesn't get approved. It would be nice to plan something sort of artistic. There's ways of just putting up white tents with no sides and things like that. Like I've seen in other communities, it doesn't have to be, cement and a fountain, but if you have the time, or at least if you don't know that nothing's going up there, then you could plan for something. I've seen people put up partitions that are plexiglass with local art sandwiched between them, kind of hung between pieces of wood that end up creating some sort of at least an artistic wall, so that you're not looking at a like all of the picnic tables had been destroyed. They had been written on with swear words. There was like every bad word you can imagine. They were pretty much covered black. And even that, it's going to happen. We know that those kind of things are going to happen, but to, quickly change them out, get those ones out of there and put new ones in. And, pride in having someone like, if flowers in, like even if you reuse those and put them around and plant it, like there's not even any flowers out there. There was no trees, there was no nothing. And I don't know, like, so there's the Shell Park, I call it, the 50th and 52nd. No one can see, but then you've got a problem with like traffic noise. So like planting taller trees might be a good, but then is that a safety issue? I don't know.
So
I think it would be
stuff would
worth
be
a
key.
conversation, like if it's not going to be a permanent choice, then let's talk about ways. Space, and then we like Maine And then there's also like 2 farmers markets in town, which is
Yeah.
also kind of confusing.
Yes,
But I
there
don't
are.
know if that's part of also the issue. Like, I don't know. Those were all my questions.
Thank
So
you.
sorry. Yeah,
No, that's
I
okay.
digress.
No, that clarifies things. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McCook. Councillor Miller.
Oh, it was me? I thought it was
That's you,
Steve.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation or for giving us some of the feedback. Curious about like certain things when you talk about public art. Like I've always thought that is a really amazing way to highlight the artists that we have in Beaumont, in Canada, you know, to bring them here. And I think there's a story to be told, you know, for the city of Beaumont that could be highlighted in murals, if you call them, or just public art. And these are, you know, I'm not an artist. You have way more handle on this and ideas probably than I do. I was just something that when you do think about public art, I would just encourage there to be some theme or plan, which I'm sure you guys have already talked about and thought about. And I really like that idea. Like I like to see, I know there's other towns and cities in Alberta that share that story through their art. And I think it's really cool because there's a lot of history and there's a lot to be said about our wonderful city. So that was my thoughts on that. And I agree with the comments around the space behind Chartier and how it's, you know, a little bit out of sight, out of mind. I was going to ask, there was a fire there once and I hope everything was okay. I don't know if you knew anything. So wasn't sure if you knew about it. Hope everything. Issue, but yeah, that was all I was going to say. And thanks so much for coming.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller. Councillor Van Newkirk.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for coming in. Once again, I'll pile on the metrics. You know, I think it'd be helpful for the, you know, where does the money go conversations to see that. And, you know, what events were they, who were the acts and whatnot. So anyways, no more to say than that. I think you heard that, but just want to quantify the effort that the group is putting in a bit too. Like how often are you guys meeting per year? Like, what is that looking like? And I know 2021 is probably different than 2022, but what did that look like for you
We
guys?
meet once a month. We meet every month, pretty much. I would say the last, November is a bad time for me. So we haven't really met this. I think we're up to maybe 6 times this year. And I appreciate it's getting hard.
For sure. And I asked that question to just make sure that we're quantifying the effort that you're putting in, right? So yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Looking
Thank you.
back to the acts, which ones were most popular? Which ones are you bringing? How did that go?
Like in the summer series?
Yeah, like, well, you had a bulleted list up there of, you know,
Yeah,
all the
so-
stuff that was funded this year. What's the must have
Well,
for next year? and
We'll
what's
for
that look
sure
like?
do probably everything that's on that, everything that we have. We would like to probably have a winter event that we normally do have on our calendar. Sort of like a fun, I don't know, some sort of fun winter, maybe entertainment event at the hall that we haven't really been able to do the last couple of years. But other than that, no, that's about it. Definitely. Sorry.
Okay.
And the Christmas one, those are our like biggest ticket. The Christmas concert costs around $10,000 to put on. That's a big cost.
Yeah, big
And
push, yeah.
then the And then the city, Arts in the Park. That one runs like $250 to $500 a week, depending on who you kind of get. If you get someone who's local, like we kind of rationed it to be, I think, just gives us a venue. So they don't give us anything really. They just give us a venue so that we can house it inside and have it as a family-friendly event that anyone can attend. And yeah. So does that answer your question? Yeah, kind of all those things. I like all of them pretty much are things that we will continue doing. And then I don't know if BSA will ask for more than their $50,000. I think BSA will probably continue to ask for that. And then maybe we will have now separate budget lines that will come to the BAC as being what people would like on top of that. Keep running our calendar at this point and then.
Yeah, I'm just trying to lead the questions and the conversation to quantify the work you guys are doing,
Yeah,
right? Because
thanks.
it's substantial and you guys are putting in a lot of time. And the fact that, you know, all the events are good and you're gonna, you know, hit redo on those,
Yeah.
you know, that's great, right? Now the one monetary question, thanks for spitting out the other numbers.
Yeah, I do
but,
know a few of them.
The one
offhand.
monetary question I do have going forward. So you had mentioned that the Knights of the Columbus
for lessons. And that was kind of at the time, again, because the Knights of Columbus had kind of asked us to help get
Oh,
rid
for
of the
sure.
money for them.
Yep.
And I know it was just positive for the people who were giving the money, like the people who were on our, like who it was their responsibility. They really did enjoy doing that. And so they're like, we should make
stuff you gotta kind of
BAC
able to put more bullet points on the board, even doing it that way, right? So, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Van Newkirk, and thank you very much, Ms. Yardley. Oops, we have another
Just to
question.
Chantel's point.
Sorry?
There's no other speaker tonight for Arts Council. I don't
Sorry.
think.
No, it's just the Beaumont Society of the Arts.
Oh, okay.
It's not the
just
Arts Council.
checking.
That's coming up another meeting.
Yeah.
Did you have a question for me?
No,
could-
no, I just, you said that there was supposed, Jeremy was
Sorry,
supposed to be
yeah.
here, but no, I was just wondering. No, just wanted to
Thank you for
clarify.
clarifying. Growing city and the grants are just increasing and the demand and of course the need and the desire by volunteers to
Right. And how I think still there's room for us to work better together that
Yeah.
way, like with the events planning, you
So
know.
just so you know, and we know that
Yeah.
that this is not by any means the way it's going to be going forward. It's going to get smoother, we hope.
Yes.
And your work really is stellar. and We appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank
Keep
you.
it going.
You too.
And
Thanks.
your patience. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Stay warm
Uh,
out there.
Looking for a motion from a member of council. No. Hold it here. A motion from member of council to accept this I'll call for the vote. And stop the vote, and that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, so we are going back then to the item that we paused, which was Councillor Tessier. Are you going to make a motion? Is that where you're headed? Oops. Ms. Winter, I keep hitting the name and then I'm hitting the, there we go.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. And yeah, I was just
Thank you, Deputy Councillor Tessier. We're just fine tuning one last point here and we should be able to have it. So if there's another
The
councillor
mics
that
are just now. Would like us to maybe take a little pause here. So if members of council are okay, we could take a 5-minute recess, take a break. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Winter.